And what we really need to be doing is avoiding those particular points and issues long enough to sense, not just know in our minds, but to sense the humanity and the connectedness of all of us. Because without that, there can be no humanity, and much of life on this earth will come to an end. With that, we can all be participants that care about each other and appreciate how damn different we are instead of fearing it.
Hello, plant people. Hello, my herbal friends, and welcome to another edition of Everything You Did Not Know About Herbalism here on Herbal Radio, brought to you, of course, by Mountain Rose Herbs. I am your host, Thomas Navarre. I am so happy to be with you once again. And today's a kind of a special sort of conversation. I've been thinking a lot about what is happening right now in the world, and we're kind of faced with a lot. And I know for me, I was feeling a bit anxious and a bit sad and a bit scared really for everything that's going on. And I really wanted to have a conversation with someone who I really appreciate their approach to life, and they have a calmness to them. And so I brought Jesse Wolf Hardin back on, and I've had Jesse on several times, and he has a way of speaking to me where I feel better. I just feel better about the world, and I feel better about he gives me hope, I think. And so I wanted to bring him on and just have a conversation about ways in which we can deal with anxiety and ways that we can deal with troubling times. And so it was very therapeutic for me. And I hope that it helps some people out there that are listening to it as well have a better understanding that especially that we're not alone, that there's community out there, that you can feel alone, but you're not. And please seek that out, and please make sure that you're taking care of yourself and being safe. And so anyway, this was my therapy session with Jesse Wolf Hardin. Well, anyway, we're here. We're doing this. I don't know. It seems like technology is not on our side today.
Well, it's never our friend. It's just a tool when we can find it.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy that you came on. I've been thinking a lot about you. And right now everything's a little crazy. Maybe everything's a lot crazy right now. I think it's crossed over from a little to a lot. And I thought, you know what? I just wanted to hang out with you, and let's just have a conversation, because I feel like you have so much to say, and you have so much wisdom and so much insight on ways that we can just, be better, heal ourselves a little bit, try to get a little bit of the signal out of the noise, right? So that's why I wanted to have you on, and I appreciate you being on.
Well, thank you so much. I missed you too.
Yeah. How's things? How you doing? How's the desert?
Well, not exactly the desert. We're at 7,000 feet, but it is pretty hot these days.
Yeah.
Warm enough that we're in the beaver dam, my son and I, every single day.
Nice.
Because without that mindless play, because there's just too much stacking up, and that's the busier my life becomes, the more important it is to get down to that river, and it's just a short jaunt down there. So he drags me. I think it's my health coach is my 7-year-old.
Yeah.
And my peace of mind kind of hinges on him jerking me off of my work, no matter how important it is, and get me down into the water.
Yeah, what a great what a great way to get away from your work too, right? Not only do you get to go to a beaver pond and go swim, but you get to go do that with your 7-year-old who, so much life, so much energy, so much a different perspective, not as jaded as us old fellows, right?
I don't think we're jaded. We just know a little bit too much.
Yeah, maybe. We've seen a few too many things, right?
Yeah, I mean, jaded is at that point where nothing excites you anymore. It isn't where the world's perfect and there's no threats and everything's working right and these darn microphones are working right. It's not that, right?
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
jaded is this moment of nothing is exciting. Everything can be exposed. Everything is less real than what it appears to be.
Well, maybe,
And
yeah,
I don't think we're capable of that. It's like the shit can fly, everything can stack up on us, but it's still like if we allow ourselves just even a few minutes away from the desk,
hmm
away from the news feed, and it's like that a single plant amazes us so much.
yeah,
The taste of the tea when we're out of our minds long enough to actually taste it,
yeah,
and it's right there. And as long as we have that capacity, we cannot possibly be jaded.
yeah.
We just we haven't buried our heads in the sand, and therefore there's a lot more to overcome in order to get in the natural state of being that we need to be either healthy or effective.
Well, we're jumping right into it, and that's why I wanted to have you on, because I think there's a lot of people that listen to this and that are going to watch this and that are looking for ways to try to cope with what's going on right now and trying to, I don't know, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of fear, and I know that the plants can help, and the meditation and the spiritual side of things can help, and I wanted to bring you on and have you just give us some of your wisdom, because you've been through some things in the past, and so you have some you know you have some
What are you referring to?
yeah, so you have some tactics for this, I think, right? You have some kind of a roadmap, at least.
Well, the times have never been more challenging than they are right now. But I used to seek out the level of excitement, or albeit slash anxiety, that we have now. It's imposed upon us. I
Yeah,
used to seek it out and call it adventure. Um, so the same techniques, the same priorities still come into play either way.
yeah,
Just that now the world's pressing upon us with this urgency. Before we had to manufacture it
right,
through some amazing mission that we're on or some really incredible thing we want to do.
right,
Now it's just all around us
yeah,
constantly is the displeasure and the discontent that comes from a basically a divided psychology, a divided society, amplified by social media, unfortunately,
yeah,
and
yeah,
played upon by the corporations, which is it's always been that way.
yeah.
So it's like right now we're in a time when there's never been in history anything comparable in terms of the threats, the very real threats.
hmm
And when I'm talking everything from artificial intelligence to genetic engineering to uh, climate catastrophe,
hmm
and of course, constantly on the precipice of wars.
hmm
All this is happening whilst what we need to feel most secure and to be most healthy and most effective helping others is this sense of community, of placement,
hmm
of presence,
yeah,
of belonging. But we're constantly being pulled out of that.
right,
The community being ripping apart, different opinions, even within herbalism, where it turns into trolling from just having different ideas.
yeah,
And so we're constantly now subject to anxiety-fying, trauma-creating stress.
hmm
And I think that's the number one danger. They say above all of those other factors, what is stress? Because even if we survive the worst of what we can do with technology, war, whatever, even if we survive that, it still requires that we come back into ourselves. The only potential for humanity is a return to who we are, where we are, and connected to all that's around us. And I'm
yeah,
talking about not just our particular community or our family, but the entire world and all the living beings that are in it.
mm.
To the degree that I get out of center, unsettled, then I try to settle myself back in. That's what we call as herbalists rooting, right? And it's because we're not settling for anything, we're not settlers on the land, but it's a settling in the same way that when you mix up medicines and wait for them to stratify and to connect and
Yeah,
to recombine. And so this re-inhabitation of our bodies and our place and our purpose.
Mm.
Through the plants is probably the ultimate edge that we have in particular, because that connects us first and foremost to ourselves, because we're sensing, we're tasting, we're trying to experience the effects of the plant. If it's a nervine that directly helps with our anxiety, or if we're addressing any other condition with any other herb, it doesn't matter, because through that herb, we're reconnecting to not only our own senses, but to the plant itself,
Mm-hmm.
and to the entire living earth, the entire energetic healing structure of this planet
Yeah.
in that moment. And so all the things that are trying to jerk us away, all these different, I don't even want to rattle through them, but all the different
Yeah.
issues that we have, they have us fighting each other. All of
Mm-hmm.
those go out the wayside at that moment you just hold that plant in your hand. So seeking out natural mechanisms for returning us to ourselves and the planet. So for me, it's steps. If we want to survive this era, let alone make it a better place, we have to first of all calm ourselves.
Mm.
Without that calming process, and I was never a meditator. I was somebody who drove a motorcycle over the speed limit again and again, and I'm shocked to
Well,
live this long.
that's a type of meditation, though, right? I mean, there's something
It is
sort of
indeed.
zen about doing 100 miles an hour on a motorcycle when you're 20 years old.
Absolutely. There's
Yeah.
confusion, and I think you'll agree. It's a lot of people that equate calmness with tranquility,
Yeah.
sedation, inaction,
Mm-hmm.
reducing desire.
Right.
But the ultimate calmness can come whether it's in a dance, a martial art, riding that motorcycle,
Mm-hmm.
climbing a tree. It's when we are so in our bodies, so aware of the situation,
Right.
so sentient
Yeah.
that the mind, the loops stop.
Yeah.
And we become, wow, here we are. That's where calmness comes from. It doesn't mean inaction.
Yeah.
And it's the way we're most effective. You're the best dancer at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in an argument and you get into an altercation, you're not a very good fighter in that altercation.
Right.
If you are ruled by your anger.
Right.
So, the Eastern Kung Fu teaches that, and all the great dancing choreographers taught that. You come into this place of total calmness in who you are, with total presence,
Mm-hmm.
total embodiment,
Mm-hmm.
and then you live through that. And so then you're a better Kung Fu fighter.
Yeah.
Then you can resolve things better. Then you're more
Yeah.
effective.
Yeah.
Then you can ride that fast and still live to be this old.
I still play a lot of basketball, and I'm out there, at 50 years old, and I'm against these young 20-year-olds, and they're faster than I am and better than I am, and that's okay. But for me, it's being out there, that one-on-one of that opponent.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something physical about it too. You get to push each other, you get to move each other. And my brain only focuses on that moment. And it's really one of the only few times that I have in my entire week or whatever that I get to just truly block everything else out. Just out there on the court.
That's one of your keys then right there.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, if it begins with calmness, then to make this practical, we must identify the things in our lives that we can go to regularly and consistently get that effect from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be just sitting out on a porch even. It doesn't have to be active physicality. It can certainly be meditation, but it also doesn't require that it be that. It can be a very active moment, but one that brings you back to yourself and out of the clutter and the clatter, out of the noise and back into the signal.
Yeah. Well, and for me, I don't know if it works like that for you, but for me, like sitting around, just sitting still, God, that's the worst. My brain just goes in 1,000 different directions, and it's
works for some people, but it doesn't. It actually makes it worse for me also.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
more, but just like baking bread and having my fingers in the bread, it's like I couldn't carry on an intellectual thought if I wanted to.
Maybe that's the key, right? You got to find that thing where you just.
Maybe calmness is incapacitating that other part of our being that has us constantly hectic and on the edge.
Right, right. So that's it. That's how you find it. That one activity where you literally can't talk to anyone else. That's your
Yeah,
activity. There it
there it is
is.
right there. And that'll be different for everybody. But think about it, folks. I mean, what is that? What is that thing that makes you really incapable of being a normal, rushing around, conversing human being,
Yeah,
and make
yeah.
bring you into your creature senses, your potential for bliss, and the second thing after calmness, connection, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Connecting with others, connecting with that thing that you're doing. Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
and I was thinking about this lately. I was watching over the weekend. They had one side that's at a military parade, and we have another side that's out there
Hmm.
protesting, and
Right.
everybody's just so separated. And my thought, I had this thought, like,
Mhm.
what if one person from one side and one person from the other side got together and just took a walk and started talking? How many people would come to the middle, and how many people would start having an understanding that everybody is in this together and there's more that unites us than divides us? I mean, how many people would find common ground, and maybe they could come to the table and be like, wow, this has gotten way out of control. We need to do something about this. This is not the way, we should exist as a civilization.
Indeed. Or, I'd like to say stepping out into the forest, but that's a lot to ask of somebody that has a busy urban life.
Mm-hmm.
But just, in the old days and in rural places like where I live, it's a meal. You know,
Mm.
you have a meal with someone, and they might
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
in our case, rather than citing what's going on in the news right now. When I first got here, there was the pro wolf and anti wolf, and I was working on reintroduction of the Mexican gray wolf that had
Mm-hmm.
been extirpated from this region.
Mm-hmm.
And believed them to be the incarnate devil that was going to put an end to ranching
Yeah.
and kill all their cows and eat their children. They actually
Yeah.
built structures to protect them on the side of the road when they're waiting for the school buses. And so we couldn't have been more different in these
Right.
kinds of senses. I was
Right.
the inveterate tree hugger, and they were the tree cutter.
Mm-hmm.
But one meal together, and we both became human beings, and
Mm.
deeper than that, we both became creatures together.
Yeah.
You know, taking in the food and appreciating the wonder of it. Filling ourselves and sharing that moment of the wonderfulness of the taste
Yeah.
and the communion of it all, and
Mm-hmm.
giving thanks. They were giving thanks to whatever, to whichever God for having that. I was busy giving thanks to the food and the entire living, amalgam that produces it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a beautiful moment. So from then on, I was still not considered one of them per se, but I was considered one of theirs.
Right.
So at that moment, the person can be, a right-wing zealot or whatever on either side of it, and you have empathy for them
Mm-hmm.
because you sense the humanity in
Mm-hmm.
them, and that required that we get out of these templates, out of these constant, clamor and noise that we throw at each other.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, I don't know how to get out of social media because it's so important now to our society.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. How
it
do you get?
it's doing more damage probably than it is good at this
Mm-hmm.
point. It's
Yeah.
reinforcing through algorithms the idea that, it's feeding back to us whatever it is that pisses us off most
Mm-hmm.
in order to get the most hits and the most profit. And what we really need to be doing is avoiding those particular points and issues long enough to sense, not just know in our minds, but to sense the humanity and the
Yeah.
connectedness of all of us.
Right.
Because without that, there can be no humanity,
Mm-hmm.
and much of life on this earth will come to an end. With that, we can all be participants that care about each other and appreciate how damn different we are instead of fearing it.
Yeah. No. Exactly. Exactly. I remember when I was a kid, I had this. There was another boy on the school bus, and I swear to God, every day him and I get into a fist fight. Just didn't matter. Just didn't like each other. We were just both of us just like to. And I came home one day and I had a black eye, or I don't know, he had something. Anyway, I came back and my grandpa was there, and I was talking to him about it, and he told me, he said, you need to find one thing that you both have in common. Go find something that you both like. And so I made a point the next day, and I tried to figure it out. And it took several tries, but once we found something that we both, and I don't even remember now what it was, something that we both liked, we came together and we were and then he became one of my best friends after that. It's just the way that worked, and I still think about that a lot. I think about like, you have those, those people that you're just completely different than. You got to find that thing, because there's going to be something that you have in common. There's going to be something that you can come together and feel like, oh yeah, I've got camaraderie with this person, right?
Something that you have a passion for and feel good about is a great place to meet.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to
I like this idea of inviting somebody over for dinner, because what an intimate sort of thing that you can do is cook food for someone else. That's bring them into your house or bring them to someplace and have food together. That's such it's just such an ancient act, right? I mean, how long have we been doing that? Bringing somebody in and feeding them, and that's tremendous.
A history of warfare that would have been so much worse, so much more violence if it wasn't for that.
Right.
I mean, it's primates competing for space and mates and territory.
Mm-hmm.
What is the counterbalance to that? What is the remedy to that? And again, it's sharing something deep, and it doesn't have to be marrying into the other tribe. It can be just sharing a solid of things that are gathered right there from that place that you share in common.
Yeah. I watched a video some time ago, and there was a KKK rally that was happening, and there was an African American man who was going up to the people in the KKK and just giving them hugs. And it was tremendous to watch, because at first they were fighting it off and they were like, what is this? And then he would just kind of come back and just be like, I just want to give you a hug, dude. And then they did. And then you just saw this change in their face. It was incredible. I'm not saying it works every time and that's the approach you need to take, but I literally witnessed that happening. You see that change go over their face. Like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, what is this? I'm connecting with this person that I'm supposed to hate,
Yes, indeed. And I don't think that having competing events such as we just had in this country, I don't think those help with that.
Yeah.
It's like the events that we're talking about are events where we have a chance to come together.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I did with the Good Medicine Confluence was, even within herbalism, there was such variation that was bordering on conflict sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the AHG feeling they were the professionals, the people who trashed AHG feeling they're anarchists. There was just, I can go on, but it was all these ways that people could break it down that didn't just feed our diversity, but rather fed our division and our rancor.
Mm-hmm.
And it was crucial for me to have an opportunity to create a space in which no particular caste is more welcome than another. It's not where you go to know that everybody agrees with you. The Good Medicine Confluence is where you go where, everybody is going to care as much as you do about something.
Right.
Be that impassioned, but they're going to do it in a totally different way. I mean, they're going to be off the wall.
Yeah.
The Christian homeschooler, the intellectual, author, the alchemist, the scientist. And it's the woman that's just, plants, hasn't hardly read a book on herbs, but has been planting and growing them forever.
Right.
You bring those things together.
Yeah.
And make a mix out of it, make a stew out of it, make a salad out of it. This is not where we go to feel like this is us versus everybody else. This is where we go up because we're so misfit. We don't fit. We don't comport.
Right.
We don't conform. We don't belong in any particular group of haters or doers. We have a approach to the earth that's very biodynamic and biodiverse.
Yeah, no, that's profound. And I can imagine you at the door, just as people come in and just be like, shed that shit at the door. That's not, that's not what this place is all about. This is about unity. And yeah. So if you could do that if you could go ahead and just do that for the entire nation, that would be wonderful. I don't know how you pull that off, but just give you.
I would love to, but if we're talking about calmness, it's impossible to be calm and believe that it's our role or our responsibility to fix the world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm speaking, I'm not looking down on anybody for this. I'm giving myself hell for it.
Yeah.
But imagining that it falls on you, that if nobody else notices, you have to do it. And that sense, I don't even mean that you believe it in your mind, that sense that the mission is to cure the world and that you have to
Mm-hmm.
do it, that nobody else is going to do it for you. And all that is true,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're in that mindset all the time, then you can't be calm,
Right. Right.
because you can't accomplish that.
Yeah.
So then it is, am I on the right path? So am I on a hugging path? Am I on a healing path?
Yeah.
Am I
Yeah.
on a learning path in which I'm constantly learning new things instead of getting stuck in some, particular way of thinking?
Mm-hmm.
You know, in this moment, am I moving, not perfect, but am I moving in the direction that feels most me and that gives from me as powerfully as possible?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then it's, what can I affect? So I can't affect the world. Can I affect 1,000? Can I affect 10,000?
Yeah.
And in what ways and how deeply can I affect them? Okay, I can't save all the wilderness. And indeed, I was arrested so many times for protesting to save old growth trees that were subsequently cut with
Right.
tears streaming down my eyes as I howled like a foolish teenage wolf from the paddy wagon, you
Mm.
know, right there
Yeah.
in the Northwest where you're at.
Yeah.
And that's, it, but I purchased the property I'm at and set it aside as a wilderness sanctuary,
Mm-hmm.
legally protected. So I not only inserted myself by putting up fence and
Mm-hmm.
keeping the cattle out and planting the seeds and figuring out what plants are indigenous and belong here and helping to bring them back. That was an accomplishment that, in terms of I can see it. I can
Mm-hmm.
see 150-foot cottonwoods. So
Right.
if we're ever thinking I have to save the world, we're not going to see that. We cannot be calm. We cannot be satisfied.
Mm.
But knowing we're on the path to do the right thing, constantly improving our fuck ups as we do the right thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and accomplishing what we can.
Right.
So maybe it's affecting one person. I mean, I've come out of a protest where I felt like I didn't change anybody's mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then I stood in line at the Whole Foods, and this woman looked like nobody had really seen her or talked to her or honored her the entire day she's been there. Just, the usual thank you without any real thought or feeling into it.
Mm-hmm.
And in 3 minutes it took her to check me out, I made this impact that I knew was going to go beyond the day. I didn't just make her feel seen and a little better about her life.
Yeah.
I gave her something to take home and chew on.
Hmm.
I gave her something to plant and
Mm-hmm.
see grow
Mm-hmm.
in that 3 minutes.
Mm.
And so at the same time that I want to be constantly active, and I do feel like it's my job, your job, everyone's job to
Mm-hmm.
heal this world.
Mm-hmm.
It begins with healing ourselves and walking the path, improving as we walk it, and noting and taking satisfaction from all the ways that we do accomplish and succeed in making people's lives and this world's life a little better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think I'm going to have Wolf for president. I'm going to make a campaign. Jesse Wolf for president.
I can't, except you can't teach personal empowerment and then while telling everybody what to do.
Mm.
I Everybody
But
said it would have been I should have made earth and spirituality more of a cult like thing where people paid for it and stayed involved.
yeah.
But my idea was to graduate everybody as quickly as possible in 3 minutes at the checkout stand, or
Yeah.
6 months of having to listen to my bull, right?
Right.
But then they're graduated to doing something effectively and more powerfully because of what they were given.
Yeah.
Which you can't. That's not how you keep people or keep an income, but it's how I can give and keep moving without and while giving people power rather than taking it away.
Well, that's the key, right? And what if we did have leadership in this country, leadership that really focused on trying to empower the people, trying to make the world a better place instead of just focusing on the individual. I mean, wow.
That's the goal. I don't.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
And
And I don't even
why the
care.
hell can't that happen? I just, someone explain it to me. Please, somebody like that knows more about this than I do. Maybe in the comments or something, they can chime in and let us know. Like, why does that not happen? Why is that not the case? I mean, I guess it's greed, right? Maybe it's just greed. Maybe greed is such a powerful force.
It's, before greed is, I mean, the root of greed is just feeling like we don't have enough. So even these billionaires that are screwing over everybody,
Jesus.
it's because they never feel like they have enough. They
Yeah.
feel like they're
Yeah.
not good enough
Yeah.
and they don't have enough.
Yeah.
So, but if you feel like there's enough to sustain you and that you're becoming a good enough person, then you don't have that insecurity that leads to manifest itself as greed. Um, Unfortunately, most of the big decisions are not made by governance; they're made by corporations.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So, the culture is determined by it, and much of our politics is funded and determined by it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there we have something that's not a human being. So, how do you take a corporation to dinner?
Hmm.
It's by law has to produce the highest income, regardless of the effects on the environment or the people involved.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember Steinbeck hit on that a lot when he was in his writings and talking about the banks and foreclosing on the farms back in the Dust Bowl, and how there was nothing that the banker could do because it was the bank. And
Right.
that I remember when I was young and I read that and thought about that for a while. I was like, that's crazy. But that is exactly the way it works. It's not up to this one individual, although it can be. I think the Elon Musks in the world could make the world a better place if they tried, but they're not.
To some degree. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, we're always dealing with human psychology. We're always going to be at the point where we don't feel envious or in danger, where we feel our families are safe, where we have self-respect because of who we are and what we do,
Yeah.
then anything is possible. But
Yeah.
it's almost we have to take it back to that
Hmm.
while they're unleashing AI to make all the decisions.
Well,
Uh, you know,
right, right, exactly. Maybe Elon, maybe Elon is listening, um, and maybe he can just come to dinner with you, right? And then you know.
yes, it's indeed. I do have a few things to say to you, old fella.
So let's talk a little bit about you. What's your summer? What are your plans? What are you working on?
Well, for the past 2 years, I've made a commitment to be primarily a father. So I'm giving
Nice.
a huge amount of my time to my 7-year-old, which and all my other offspring situations. I've never had the fortune of somebody that was stayed with me, wasn't separate parents
Hmm.
fighting for custody.
Yeah.
I could remain an influence, and so I have consciously made the choice, um, freeing up his mother quite a bit to where he's just number one. So,
Nice.
like I say, he's why I get to the river. By
Hmm.
making him number one, he makes sure that I'm living the truths that I teach. I
Nice.
can't talk about pleasure and bliss and all these things. I can't talk about them without him saying, "Okay, well, let me see you do that."
Hmm.
And make it real. And so, I would say first and foremost, I've not put book writing over being a father,
Good.
and
Yeah.
that's somewhat new, I have to admit, but I feel like
Right.
it's a growth period.
Right.
And
Although
I can't,
that's hard on us, the people that are listening and all of us that you're not going to be writing as much, but at the same time, I think it's a wonderful decision.
well, at least in my priorities, I mean, writing is kind of something I can't do. It's like the way hormones control certain things men do that they might have second thoughts about later. There's something that triggers inside of me. Some organ releases this hormone in me that says you got to write, and so it has kept happening. The regular videos that I do for Herb Rally, for Mason on
Mm-hmm.
Herb Rally,
Yeah.
I thought would be a way of moving away from so much written wordage, but all of that has ended up transcribed. Neither appears in the Free Herbaria magazine
Mm.
that we send out every month,
Nice.
or else in Plant Healer Quarterly, or in subsequent books like The Herbalist.
Yeah.
So there will be a continuation of books. But it's going to happen in spite of my priorities, not as my priority.
Good. Good. Sounds like you can have, kind of the best of both worlds there then. I think that's fantastic. And you deserve that very much.
Well, I would hate to die not fully living what you have recommended to others to do
Mm-hmm.
forever,
Mm-hmm.
which is, follow your heart, follow your bliss.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, causes. Yes, there's struggles. Yes, we can't ignore what's happening in politics or anything else.
Yeah.
We can't ignore the climate changing around us and how dry the forests are. While that's happening, while we're making money, while we're creating new businesses, is the real work, the most fundamental work.
Yeah.
And that's to be ourselves, chasing our bliss the way a kid chases a butterfly.
Right. Right. We only have a certain amount of time, right? I mean, literally,
Well,
it's
and
just
everything we
so
do is
finite.
better for it. I mean, I don't want to put it just in practical terms. I think it doesn't even have to have a damn good reason to feel that good. But everything else you do is better, comes out better.
Yeah.
If you're working out of joy instead of opposition,
Mm.
it doesn't matter if it's artwork, a dance, or sex. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be better. Okay.
Right. Right.
The food's going to come out better.
Yeah.
Because you did it out of joy, not because everybody needed to eat and you want to get it done quick as possible.
Right. Wow. Well, there it is. That's what I needed to hear. I don't know about anyone else listening, but that is exactly what I needed to hear. Because, too often we can get bogged down, and it's just, and to me, the muck and the mire is getting deeper and deeper right now. And it's so much easier to.
It is. It is. And it's nothing that the cleverest person in the universe, the most compassionate person in the universe couldn't do anything about. I mean, I'm actually glad I'm not president because of what I would be unable to accomplish.
Yeah.
And to be God, people say, I wish I were God. Well, the last thing in the world what I would want would be omnipotence, where something had to be hurt, where we had to reduce the human impact in order to have a diverse, beautiful world.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be able to make those decisions. Nature will make those decisions, though, if we don't do the right thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's not waiting around for us. I can tell you that right now. It's gonna do its thing, and
what survives and evolves will be having a good time, and that I can promise you.
Well, hey, this is a little bit short, but I really just wanted to have you on just to hang out for a minute, especially after this last weekend. I thought, God, if I could just talk to you, and this is selfish, by the way, for everyone listening. This is really a selfish sort of podcast, because I needed this. I needed just to hang out with you for a little bit and hear your wisdom, hear your talk. You just make me feel so much more calm. And I thank you for that.
That does a huge amount for me. Thank you so much to say so.
Yeah.
And our message for everybody really is just that, right? It's just feel it and do it. Chase that butterfly, because you weren't able to change what's going on this last weekend. You can't change what's going on next weekend. You can have an impact to the degree that you're doing what you need to do, acting in a healing way with all the joy possible. And really, that's the surviving species right there. That means we're truly alive, not just breathing air.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Truly alive.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you for everything that you do. You're a treasure. You really, really are. I so appreciate it.
Thank you, Thomas. And thank you, everybody.
Okay. Well, you have a wonderful day. Go down to the dam, or maybe you've already been there.
Yeah, back to the river.
Back to the river. And have a nice swim.
They say get with the flow. I take it literally.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy, very much. And we'll talk very soon. Okay.
Scott.
Bye-bye.